Thank you. Well, I'm so glad to be here. I've had a flurry of a summer and excited to start off a Loeb Fellowship and excited that so many of you are here to learn what we're up to as we learn what each other are up to during this coming year. I have a focus on housing, not that represented in the studio courses I saw, so I hope you guys are interested in it. So I'll do a quick poll here. How many people live in housing? How many people don't have a house? Okay, so we're not very representative of the world right now. And just a little more details, this is the field I work in. How many people live in a single-family detached house? Okay, with your family? How many people live in an attached house, row house, condo, apartment, something like that? Okay. Anyone live in some sort of shared housing, like multi-generational or group house with friends? Okay, more than usual, I see. And how about student housing? Just your own room? Not much. I guess these are grad students, not so much undergrads. Well, I would like to say that housing is full of stories, and obviously there's a story once you live in a house, but there's also the story of the house's design and creation, and that's going to sprinkle through the presentation I go through. And I should say that I'm a developer and a general contractor. I have a background, which I'll share in a little bit, but one of the reasons I do wear those hats primarily is I'm kind of down in the weeds a lot of the time. This year will give me a chance to step away a little bit into some policy interests of mine. But I spend a lot of time ordering toilet fixtures and supervising subcontractors and occasionally loading up a dump truck to take the load out. So it's kind of a novelty for me to do a little presentation here. Now I gotta figure out how to do the forward. Got the gadget, okay, I'm going. Out in the first place. Okay. Well, this gets to what Jim was talking about at the beginning, change in home size and household size. In 1950 to 2008, the home size, average in the United States, there we go, went from 983 square feet to 2,500 square feet. Those in the back, I know you can't see this, you have to trust me. The same time period, the family size in the United States went from 3.8 down to 2.6. That means that the average square footage per person in the United States went from 258 to 961. It more than tripled over 50 years. Okay. There's a researcher in Oregon, and he looked at a standard single-family house, 2,200 square feet, and figured out what happens if you tweak the house in different ways in terms of the energy efficiency of the house, the waste provided, the waste generated, and the greenhouse emissions generated. And I'm going to gloss through this, but he looked at 25 different waste prevention practices, like SIPS panels, pre-cut lumber packages, better insulation, even straw bale construction. And he included in that list two things. One was making the house a little bit smaller, and the other was doing attached housing. And we have to multitask it here. The things that stood above the rest were being a little bit smaller house and detached housing, and attached housing. So he did a follow-up study and found that the bulk of the impact for greenhouse gases comes not from the materials to build the house with or to replace as the house gets old. It's from heating the house, lighting and plug loads, and water use and heating. And the heating and plug loads, those scale directly with house size. So what does this mean? I'm just going to look at two of the items on this list. Actually, I'm going to use this. A medium Energy Star house, a medium being 2,200 square feet, that's still pretty big. An Energy Star meaning that it's got a nice heating system, good insulation, envelope, it's got heat recovery ventilators, it's got a lot of bells and whistles, is no better, in fact it's worse from a climate gas perspective, than a house that's just 600 square feet smaller and it's got no bells and whistles, just base code. So get that, 2,200 square foot house, lots of bells and whistles like lead homes, is no better than a house 600 square feet less. And 1,600 square foot is still a pretty big house. Portland, Oregon, today, standard single family new construction, this is it. 22 square foot house, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath. This one company, Renaissance Homes, is building more than 100 of these a year in Portland right now. It has been for a few years since the economy came back. There's lots of other builders doing the same thing. This is the norm for single-family construction in a city that's known for being pretty progressive. Now, in multifamily apartments, the size of homes is going down naturally with the market. In single-family zone, not the case. So that's part of my motivation. My company is Orange Squat. It's named after a favorite kid's book, which I highly recommend if you or a toddler are in your life. The mission of our company is to develop co-housing. It's communities of small homes. We're a consultant, we're a general contractor, and we try and pioneer new housing models. That's our crew from the most recent project. That's the boss, my daughter, a knuckle breaker. And I'm going to say a little bit about myself first, then do a quick run through some projects we've done. I studied physics in college, did research in optics. Can't believe it the way I'm using this thing here. I'm pretty wary of lasers. I spent a lot of time in the dark laser labs. And I came to Portland, Oregon, after growing up in Roadhouse in Washington, D.C., to work with Habitat for Humanity, did hands-on construction. Got me interested in affordable housing, where I did 12 years of affordable housing development with nonprofits. Then went off on my own after living in a group house during most of that time and enjoying it. Some people hate living in a group house. I actually kind of liked it. But I wanted to have a little more autonomy in my own front door. So I teamed up with a friend to convert a 7-plex into a local housing community where we each had our own discrete home and some shared common spaces. I loved it, and I decided to keep doing that. And that's been about 6 years in the works. These are some early developments I did with the affordable housing sector, and they all had about 30 to 50 units, and then they also had some common houses. There's the common house over here on that project. And now I'm going to work from scale, from large scale to small scale. And one of the themes in smaller homes is they work great on their own, but they work even better in community, where you've got some shared interior and exterior spaces for everyone to have. There's a pretty standard model in the United States called co-housing. And this is a pretty typical co-housing project. I coordinated the finances on it down in Corvallis, Oregon. It's 34 homes. That's the common house right there. And it's on 6 acres. There's inside that common house, which is about 2,000 square feet, there's a substantial kitchen where everyone can get together for shared meals. There's 2 guest bedrooms, a library, a laundry area. It's really a pretty substantial facility, and you need to have that many units to share the facility to spread its cost over all the homes. Kids just moved in here, family parties, and this is a little smaller project. This is one that I will live in soon. Lived in here for 2 months before I came out, called Coley Grove. It's 16 homes on 2 acres, and it's got a community garden area there. Park is on one edge. I got a common house in the middle, and it's really kind of a farm in the city theme. This is it during construction. My father helping out, supervising the excavation. My partner Zach doing construction. Here it comes. Me climbing up a neighbor's tree to get an aerial photo. And this is completed. You sort of work your way through the courtyard here to the back. That's our house there, right there, which we lived in for a couple months. That's the common house on the site, which is fairly petite as common houses go. It's got 1,100 square feet. The upstairs, there's guest quarters for out-of-town residents. The first floor, there's this very small kitchen with a gathering space. So not really enough for everybody to be there at once unless you spill outside, but enough space so you can have a party of 20 people over that wouldn't fit in your living room. Or if you want to have a meeting with a client or a friend in your house, the pit, you can do it there. Or if you have a kid party and they're going to make a mess, just do it there too and clean it afterwards. Really easy to have impromptu social gatherings. These are some that already happened. And the kids play as a pack, so the parents can do something different. And in this case, the kids pointed out the rainbow that happened, and the boomers, is a community about half young families, half empty nesters. The empty nesters are there so their kids don't have any room to boomerang back to. They're downsizing. And once they get there, they end up being much more playful and acting like kids themselves. And the parents like the idea that they could actually hand the baby monitor to a neighbor after the kid's gone to sleep and go to see a movie together that night, which they maybe couldn't do in a single-family house. And at some point, when we get back, there's a property across the street that we now have for phase 2. Getting smaller, this is Woolsey. This is on the corner of a Hope 6 development. The Housing Authority of Portland developed a many-unit project, and this is on a 75 by 100-foot lot. It's 8 units and 1 3-story building around an existing maple tree. It's coming along here. The location is extremely important. This is right next door to a community garden, right across the street from an elementary school and a Boys and Girls Club, and 1 block from some great parks. This is as completed. We try and integrate artwork into every project. This time we met with the Boys and Girls Club. They loved music, so we said that sounds fun. So we got some scavenged instruments and incorporated them into the railing system. Also did some beautiful trellises, a little squirrel on the green roof, and some live age natural wood. Interior shot. This is with a land trust, so these units will be affordable in perpetuity. And a little ice cream social when we got it finished up. Getting smaller, this is the one that 7 units I purchased with a friend. We converted to condos and set one of the units aside as a common area. This is, once it was renovated, this is North Portland, right across the street from a wonderful park with community center, Portland's original rose garden. It's right on the bus line. The theme of the residence here is more gardening and bicycles. With some communities, the community's involved in the design. In this case, it was already there, so we got involved in the landscaping of the place and gardening it up. What had been sort of a fallow courtyard. Put bike racks in. And the common house is very petite in this case. It's just a studio apartment, basically, with a living room where you can have gatherings. People can spend the night if they want to. A kitchen, not much to say there, but there's dishes for 40. So if you want to have a party, you don't have to have dishes for 40 at your own house. And these 3 kids, this is the scene. They were all born actually on the premises. The demographics of this community were pretty young folks in their 30s. Originally mostly single, with one couple and a bump who became a baby. And the population has grown with some additional units to 24 folks, including kids every single year for about 6 years. And some more that moved in since. Gatherings are easy and impromptu. It doesn't take a whole lot of meetings to keep this group organized. It's meeting-like co-housing, and sometimes we have a large party, ice cream social. With that property came some garages, 7 of them. We had 2 years, not a single car in any garage, so we took them down. We built more units. I'm a fan of infill density, I should say, and this is gives us 3 more units in development, including some larger 3-bedroom units, so there's more of an option as families grow or people change their circumstances. Sometimes you can wing it as a contractor. I heard about a tree that fell down from an arborist in Vancouver, Washington. We took the wood back and milled it up and used that for all the interior trim in the project. Worked with a metal artist I know, welded these things together, great gable end pieces, glamour shot. We integrated some bike art into the railing system, the trellises. In every development I do, there's always a courtyard, a shared community space, outdoor. This time we found some salvaged dredging equipment, took it back by a rowboat, put it in the ground, and made that the centerpiece. This is an aerial view of the whole community. The common house is right here, which connects sort of our courtyard in the new phase to the courtyard in the existing phase. Save & Green is a development that's got 4 homes in it on 4 corners of a 75 by 100 foot lot. Pretty small infill development. This house here was existing. Behind it was a detached a garage. We converted it to an accessory dwelling unit and then built a new single family house, and behind it a detached accessory dwelling unit. So you have 4 homes legally owned as condominiums, even though there's 2 lots. So each person owns their own house with a shared courtyard in the middle. That's the before picture. After picture. Having some fun with the artwork. That's the house. In fact, that house, if I walked around, that's 20 by 20 feet with a notch cut out of it. You could fit several of them in this room. I expected that it would be a single person living in there. It turned out to be a couple with 2 cats. They had a baby. This is 550 square feet between the 2 floors. They lived there for over a year with a baby. Next they moved out, a new couple moved in, they had a baby. It's fertile, I gotta say that. In the construction project, we got a salvage framing package, used that for all the interior trim. This is inside the tiny house. It's got a circular stair in the middle to get to the upstairs sleeping loft and bathroom. Open floor plan down below, and we put storage under the stairs so you don't collect dust bunnies down there. And it's a small community, so a small common space. In this case, the community worked with Mark Lakeman, Lydia Dolman, and the Village Building Convergence to build their own structure with neighborhood to help. Strong clay construction. It was a lot of fun, a party over a 2-week period. And there it is completed, right there. And that's the scene. It's just a great hangout spot, tucked into a neighborhood where otherwise you wouldn't have any people living there. And so instead of a single family house, you have 4 homes with population ranging 15, 20 people. Little pitch here for accessorydwellings.org. It's a website that I launched with a couple people to share real-life build examples of accessory structure. So if you know of any, contribute to the site. We're always looking for more examples, and if you're an architect and you design something, get it built, then get it on the site. Because we're only doing build examples. A little data information I just learned yesterday, so I tossed the slide in. Accessory dwelling units, we did a survey of 390 ADU owners, that's accessory dwellings, in Oregon. 390 responses came back. It's a pretty good sample size. And they found that those ADUs, 488 square feet per person in the ADUs. We were sort of worried maybe people weren't actually living in them, they were using them as offices and stuff, but no, they're really living in them, and it's a more efficient way to house folks. You can get smaller than that. This is a single-family house that I bought. Here's a picture of it. You can barely see it from the street on a 50 by 100 foot lot. And then typically we would tear this thing down and put a bigger house on it. That's the sort of house it is. A woman who's in her 80s sold it to me. And, but we didn't do that. We built to the side of it 2 detached bedrooms. Okay, this is the version of the group house where everyone's got their own 4 walls. And each one of these has 12 by 14 feet with a sleeping loft. They're pretty cute. And the whole front garden, 60 feet of the lot, is all garden still. Those small houses, they go up pretty fast. We have a little courtyard. We tore up a parking space to build this, which is fun to tear up parking spaces. Looking back at the courtyard, people who have bikes and use bikes a lot, they love them and they have a lot of bikes. So one lesson for any developer, if you're providing bike parking, provide at least 3 spaces per household, because they'll use them. More fun uses for bike parks. This is an inside of one of those homes. We actually have a railing up there now. This was not quite completed. And through that door there's a bathroom. There's a full bathroom in each of these things, and a shower. And outside it there's a little sink that people could use for a little hot plate, or they could use the sink on the main floor of the main house, which is also a common area. That's finished, and just the history of it. A woman moved in here originally and had friends renting out the other 2 houses. Then she fell in love with this guy. They moved up here, and that person moved to California. They had 1 kid, then 2 kids, and then and they rented out these houses to friends. So there's an evolution where people who maybe used to live in a group housing for maybe 1 or 2 years after school are now living in group housing into their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and even starting families that way. Partly because that's sort of the tribe. Their support network might be, their nuclear family might be far away, and partly it's economics. It's just expensive. And the traditional home that you just saw earlier is not reachable for a lot of the people who need housing. Getting smaller still, Dignity Village. I worked for 2 years as a nonprofit, as a volunteer with them. As Matt Noem was saying yesterday, really supporting their effort and communicating between them and the city policy folks. They started the Tent Village, self-governance, and they converted it into a really nice community on public land, and it was a success. And I've got my time out, so I'm going to roll swiftly through here. Getting smaller still, tiny house on wheels. Why not? Inside you've got a house with a kitchen and a bath. Some art. Got another one here. And there are a lot of uses for these. Some people live in them. I'm living out here, so I'm not going to live in one. But this is a project of a GSD graduate, Cole Peterson and his wife, Caravan, a tiny house on wheels. You can rent one of these and hit the strip on Alberta and Northeast Portland and stay the night. Smaller still, this is our daughter's little house. She gets upstairs, the ducks get the downstairs. Okay, I'm going to skip this one. I'll say why do this work, and that'll be a sort of a closer. It's really environmental. Smaller homes are environmentally better. They match your demographics better. Then people have some social. People have lots of privacy in this country. A lot of people are looking for a chance to be with friends informally without a lot of planning. I want to expand the traditional co-housing model, which is pretty prescriptive right now. A lot more people are looking for community than that model offers. So meeting-like versions of it that actually work for families is something and our smaller units, you can slip them into existing neighborhoods. I want to bring back some housing forms that used to be very common, like the accessory dwelling, or dividing a house into multiple apartments, or having single-room occupancies, frankly, many of those have been rendered illegal by codes. I want to remove some challenges that the zoning code has placed in front of doing smaller homes. It's not just the market working here. There's some real land use rules like minimum lot sizes, parking requirements that steer the market to those larger homes. And so some fellowship projects are to research some community-oriented housing models. I want to learn from you guys, faculty, students. Portland is known for a place people come to visit to learn from, and we can be navel gazers. I've done every project within easy biking distance of my house. I want to learn how other people do it, both in the United States and internationally. Figure out what the levers are to change the market. sort of learning from the energy world where people switch to light bulbs and better appliances. Let's do the same for homes. Work on a policy toolkit of some really easy to change rules, cottage housing, zoning, accessory dwelling units, codes that have been proven to work in some jurisdictions, so other jurisdictions with maybe one person on staff can adopt them. Brainstorming sessions, either individually with you guys, students. I love kicking ideas around, and also maybe look at some of the challenges that the Massachusetts folks are having in affordable housing, and how we can bring the cost of building the base house down so that the subsidy required to make it really affordable is reduced. And maybe a small-scale design-build project. I've been a contractor. Those 16 homes we built, I barely got to pick up a hammer because I was in the office. So I'd love to come up with something, maybe team up with some students to build something while I'm out here. And lastly, look at the post for I love the kids. So, figure out what to do after the fellowship year, what hats to wear, and how to run a life so I got time for family and also for doing some work. That's it.